Details of the new third-party premiums were revealed over the weekend, and for the people of Newcastle it was not good news. We've been by far the hardest hit by the increases. A breakdown statewide showing that from July 1 we'll be paying $62 more for third-party in comparison with an increase of only $26 for Sydney residents and even less for those in Wollongong and country areas. A result member for Charlestown, Richard Face, today described as a gross miscalculation.
I would have expected and believed that we should have been the same as Wollongong. If the government want to bring up to Sydney metropolitan rate, though I've yet to be convinced the risk factor is the same, well, let it be done in graduated stages. I think the figures have gone wrong, and if they've attempted to bring us up to Sydney in this one foul swoop, that's wrong.
However, a spokesman for Attorney General John Dowd this afternoon said it simply came down to Newcastle motorists making far more claims than any other non-metropolitan region. He said the government had decided to end cross-subsidisation, which had seen motorists pay a standard rate, and instead imposed charges on various regions in accordance with the claim ratio. The spokesman said that when broken down, Newcastle was actually on par with Sydney and far higher than Wollongong. The increases, which will be imposed from July 1st, means that registering the average family car in this state will cost around $542 in comparison with $267 in Victoria and $370 in Queensland.
The seminar has been organised by local council health surveyors who want to bring environmental issues to the fore.
So what we're trying to do is promote the environment and the protection of the environment. So we're trying to make the community as a whole more aware of environmental issues.
More than 200 people, including engineers, industrialists and environmentalists, have signed up for a green view of council and community issues. Topics covered include garbage and sewage disposal, open-cut mining and environmental law. Speakers called for a tougher line from planners, saying developers' views too often outweigh concerns for the environment. But the issue of greatest impact was the greenhouse effect. Newcastle University's Dr. Howard Bridgman said an increase of man-induced gases such as carbon dioxide building up under cloud cover could be warming the Earth's surface and may have a dramatic effect for local agriculture.
If we get a 3-degree rise in temperature in the next 40 years, that could have serious implications for the quality of the wine we produce in this hunter. On the other hand, it could be beneficial for people who are thinking about growing subtropical and tropical cash crops, such as bananas, for example. It's feasible we could have a climate here by the year 2050 that's similar to Coffs Harbour.
Greenhouse could mean increased summer rainfall, threatening floods to areas which may already be susceptible to constant flooding. Sea levels are expected to rise, obviously affecting properties in coastal areas. While the outlook is gloomy, Dr. Bridgman says public awareness can fight the problem. Conserving fossil fuels and looking to alternative energy sources is a step governments must follow.
This was the accident scene half an hour after a brown Datsun and a blue Falcon collided head-on at 6:40 p.m. The woman driver of the Datsun 200B, believed to be aged around 27, died instantly. So did a girl aged around 4 who was travelling in the back of the Ford Falcon. Another baby in that car survived with minor injuries.
It would appear that the brown vehicle was travelling in a southerly direction on the wrong side of the road. when it's come into collision with the blue vehicle behind us here, which was travelling in the second lane in a northerly direction.
The driver of the Falcon was trapped for half an hour as emergency services fought to free him from the mangled wreckage. He was treated on the scene and then flown by Westpac rescue helicopter to the Royal Newcastle Hospital, suffering serious injuries. Tonight's accident was within a few hundred yards of another similar crash.
There's been a number of serious accidents along this stretch of road. It's the second fatal accident we've had along here in the last 12 months.
Police investigations are continuing into the cause of the accident.
"26-year-old Blackwell's Park woman Charlie Field died instantly when her Nissan sedan crossed to the wrong side of Wangi Road, colliding head-on with a Ford Falcon carrying a father and two children. One of the children, 3-year-old Katrina Goldie, a passenger in the back of the Falcon, also died instantly. The 31-year-old father from Wangi was trapped for more than 30 minutes as emergency teams worked to free him. He was flown by Westpac rescue helicopter to Royal Newcastle Hospital. This morning, he remains in a serious but stable condition with multiple limb and dental injuries. His 6-year-old son is recovering in Mater Hospital. He suffered minor head injuries.
In 1983, Carrington Slipways signed a contract with the Australian Navy to build 2 prototype mine hunters. 3 years later, the Rush Cutter was launched, a unique craft built of fiberglass designed to work in shallow waters, clearing ports and channels of mines. With 2 built, the federal government has called a halt to the project, saying it has no requirement for further vessels in the next 3 years. This has long put the viability of the purpose-built factory and its trained staff under a cloud. It's understood Carrington's will bite the bullet within weeks, although today Managing Director Don Laverick would only confirm that a serious review was underway. The land is owned by the company, but the specially equipped extensions to the factory were paid for by the Navy. Specialist staff will be retained for 12 months under a deal negotiated between the federal government and Carrington Slipways. Export marketing assistance has not been renewed this year. The minehunter experience and the loss of the frigate contract has made Carrington Slipways wary about future Navy work, finding it cannot afford the costly business of tendering. Don Laverick has confirmed, however, that his company is pursuing a variety of other commercial shipbuilding projects.
For those of us in business and industry, the policies of the government are all
applauded Mr. Gorbachev for his... It was very rare that we ever talked about
Saturday, the role of the federal member and the effort of organising a public...
A bigger crowd at the football than the chamber.
In world technology and world research.
The city deserves more than kicks. Depends on demonstrating our independence.
Professor John Bolton says he regrets saying in a recent newspaper article that not 1 cent of telethon money has gone to children with cancer in the Hunter, and he says he was wrong in saying that no children were treated by radiotherapy.
I used that, in retrospect, hyperbole to make a point about overall distribution of resources to children with special needs in the Hunter, and I'd like to take this opportunity of, as it were, putting the record straight in terms of something I said which has been taken out of context and misunderstood.
He says oncology services for children are lagging behind other areas of paediatric care.
After all, there are more children in the oncology clinic than there are, for example, in the cystic fibrosis, and about the same number as in the diabetes clinic. There's actually a very large number of children.
He believes that with 1 extra medical specialist and 1 specialist nursing sister, facilities at the oncology centre at Newcastle's Mater Hospital would be dramatically improved. How much would it cost us to provide the ideal number of extra staff?
About $200,000 to $300,000 a year, all up, for staffing and drugs on top of that, so maybe a bit less than $500,000 a year.
The Hunter Area Health Service is negotiating additional resources for the new John Hunter Hospital. David Howlett, Director of Operations, says the extent of funding will be known in around 3 months' time, and then decisions will be made on its allocation. But he said extra staffing was not an unrealistic request, since paediatric oncology does need improving.
The study was initiated by the taxi industry, concerned with the growing number of verbal and physical assaults on drivers.
2 phone calls stuck in the rain. Where to, sir?
Newcastle actually played a large part in the results. It was selected as a model, as it has just one large cooperative with good records of incidents of assault. In fact, Newcastle is one of the safest cities. Last year, local taxis carried 1.5 million passengers. There were only 6 assaults, the most serious on Ian Taylor.
A young lad about 16 with a knife. And he didn't say a word, he just went for me.
The report says that passenger aggression is often motivated by a perceived lack of service. Communications was identified as one area needing improvement. The Newcastle Taxi Association is considering installing a computerised system, giving drivers a visual readout of destinations rather than just a radio message. The report also advises that drivers receive better training, and any who repeatedly breach rules should be retested, possibly losing their licence. Taxi ranks were identified as contributors to the problems. The report says they should be equipped with shelters, lights and queue rails to reduce tension among the waiting public.
Stand up, lead up! It's going green.
The Hunter Prelude Early Intervention Centre is financed by the State Department of Family and Community Services, the federal government and by parents who run the centre. This year the state funding was increased for the Curry Centre and the Taree branch of Prelude by 8.4%. However, the number of children attending the centres has more than doubled. The expansion of the centre is clearly a strain on an already tight budget, particularly when state funding covers only 61% of Prelude's expenditure. The centre has also been receiving a small grant through the federal government's special education program, but since 1988 that grant has been reduced and this year withdrawn completely. A spokesperson for the Special Education Coordinating Committee, which made the recommendation, says the decision came down to a list of priorities. She said while it is unfortunate that the Prelude parents must raise $29,000 this year, there are cases where the shortfall is as high as $100,000. How does it make you feel when the government pre-election promises include increasing childcare facilities, and here we are looking at a funding cut for a centre like this?
Well, very angry, really. I mean, it's bad enough having a child with a disability, but when you have to fundraise for that child's education, I mean, they're not impressed in the least.
Well, I just think that people should get their priorities right, especially the government. The priority should be to help a lot of these children that really need it, and I really feel that children that can't even walk or talk, they really do need as much as the government can give them.
The centre's just expanding so rapidly that, well, I don't really know what's going to happen. We'll eventually have to have a waiting list or say no, which really defeats the purpose of the whole program.
Racing is over 2 days and around 112 events will be contested, with riders ranging in age from 7 to 15. Not only do the youngsters enjoy the thrills and spills of racing, but it is a learning process in bike handling as well. Local competitors did well today, with Craig Anderson leading the 80cc division in the 12 years of age division and Joel Elliott riding superbly to lead the 14 years 125cc group. Greg Nicholson, Danny Ham and Chad Reid are also doing well, but the ones that had the most fun today were the littlies on the peewees. With the track a bit of a bog, it was a hard slog for these guys to get through. Some stood up and some just fell over. And they'll be back tomorrow to do it all again.
Ian Murray became a household name back in 1987 when he sailed his 12-metre yacht Kookaburra 3 to an America's Cup showdown with Dennis Conner on the high seas off Fremantle. With Australia still basking in the glory of its Miracle Cup win 4 years earlier by Alan Bond's Australia 2, the shy, serious young sportsman quickly became the golden boy of Australian sailing. But the adulation of a nation wasn't enough to beat Conner, the Kooka 3 crew failing to win a single race. But while that result saw an abrupt end for Australia's preoccupation with sailing and America's Cups, it didn't see an end to dreams of men like Murray and Bond to bringing the coveted Cup down under again. And last year, while the Americans and the Kiwis were slogging it out in the courts to see who would be home to the Cup, the Tycoon and the Sailor were quietly going about rebuilding their challenge program. And for the first time today, Ian Murray revealed Newcastle Harbour was to be their secret weapon.
A year ago now, we spent a fair bit of time up here. I spent a lot of time with the Maritime Services Board up here surveying possible dock sites, and we spent a lot of time surveying your weather conditions here, and came up with the judgment this was the most suitable place to do the training for the America's Cup Challenge from, was actually Newcastle in front of Jarvis Bay. I can remember snooping up here in Channel 9 helicopters and whatever else, and it was all very quiet. I don't think anyone wanted to get anyone's hopes up.
So confident is Murray in Newcastle's potential that he returned to the city today to speak to a special earthquake meeting, drawing parallels with his ups and downs on the high seas to the tough times the city is dealing with right now. And he said he had complete faith in the strength and the enthusiasm of the people of Newcastle in getting back on their feet again, saying he'd seen firsthand how they could throw their support behind a project in his days at the helm of the Kooka campaign.
I remember we bought the Kookaburras here Kookaburra 1 here in 1985, and the response of the people of Newcastle was just mind-blowing. And it was, I think it's a great place.
But Murray admits for now those plans have been put on hold. Uncertainty over the future of the America's Cup and the problems of the Bond Corporation throwing it a little off course. But he says Australian sailing will rebuild, maybe with the help of new faces and new ideas. And he says with Newcastle Harbour as its home base, the Australian syndicate has the potential to knock the wind out of the sails of the rest of the world. Tracy Reid, NBN News.
The students of the Newcastle Business College were told yesterday it was to close and the company was going into liquidation. Students who had paid up to $4,000 for their course faced the prospect of losing their money and a doubtful career future. The trouble began for the college last year when the federal government withdrew its subsidy of $110 per month per student. No explanation was given. The earthquake then affected enrolments this year, and the floods in January damaged the college premises.
It's an unfortunate situation, Alison, because this college has operated in Newcastle continuously for 82 years. And in the last 2 months, we've suddenly seen a decline from 146, 150 students in the college to a mere 80 students. And the simple facts are that the college cannot survive with such a few students.
Passmore's group of colleges are keen to move in and pick up where the Newcastle College left off, but the speed at which the problem will be solved depends on several factors beyond the control of either company.
The basic objective that was discussed was any possibility of continuity of staff and continuity of students from term 2 onwards in order to honour the commitment for the students. We are hopeful that, conditional upon the sympathies of the liquidator, the City Council, the Mayor, who will shortly get a call, the local member and possibly business people, that we can achieve a way in which we can open the doors at the commencement of term 2 with the same students and with the same teachers.
The ski ramp is part of a promotion for New South Wales ski resorts, designed to show people how easy skiing can be. The ramp is covered with carpet and can be raised or lowered, sped up or slowed down to suit the skier. They say once you've learnt on the ramp, you're ready to take to the slopes. And according to these hotshots, the best slopes are here in New South Wales.
What we're trying to do is we travel right around New South Wales and into Queensland teaching people to ski, because a lot of people are worried that it might be a little bit too hard to learn. We can teach them in a few minutes on the ski deck, so that gets rid of that fear. We also have a brochure which shows them how inexpensive it can be to have a holiday down the snow as well.
Well, the pros were having no trouble staying on their feet. Once you've managed to get the boots on and negotiate the stairs, the hard part is supposed to be over. But I was yet to be convinced.
Well, I know I'm making this look very easy, and according to my very patient instructors Noddy and Budgie, a beginner can learn to ski in less than 3 minutes. Although after half an hour, some of us still need a little help.
For those who are keen, the ski ramp will be in Charlestown Square until Saturday. Alison Peters reporting for NBN News.
State Rail's Cardiff depot is used for the cleaning and maintenance of diesel locomotives. The grease and oil from the engines is supposed to be treated in a specially built plant, but yesterday at least some was escaping into neighbouring bushland, a sight which surprised and worried depot manager Len Howell. SRA environmental officers were rushed from Sydney and immediately began a $50,000 operation to rectify the problem. The drain was dammed with oil-absorbing blankets, while a pit was dug nearby. The contaminated soil will be deposited there and a synthetic bug introduced, which will break down the grease into biodegradable material in about 3 months.
We're not actually moving the problem from the drain to another spot, we're actually treating it in a new spot away from the drain.
And it won't happen again?
I hope not.
A better drain will be built and it'll be monitored for any more leaks. Although the SRA admits the oil did come from the plant, it's baffled as to its source.
An accident. We're still trying to find out how it did happen, but at the moment there has to be an accident. It's not deliberate.
I think the SRA have been very responsible in their approach to the oil spill once they established that it was occurring.
The State Pollution Control Commission has examined the creek downstream and says no oil appears to have reached it. The SRA had good reason to move fast to make good its error. The state government is cracking down on industrial polluters. If it was proved that the spill was deliberate and harmed the environment under new legislation, the authority could be fined up to $1 million and the manager face a jail term of up to 7 years. Ross Hampton, NBN News.